All right, guys. We're now looking at the second part of this, what your client sees and what your clients hear. And this is a surprisingly big part of what your product is going to be if you're teaching exercise and helping people with exercise classes via Zoom. There are a few things you want to consider. You want to consider what their Zoom setup is. You want to consider your background, your positioning, your lighting, and your sound. So their Zoom setup refers to, are they on an iPad? Are they on an iPhone? Are they on a Mac? Are they on a laptop? Are they on a big screen TV, which is what I think is ideal. So if they're on an iPad or if they're on an iPhone and they have Apple TV, you can get them to AirPlay onto their TV so they can see the huge vision of you, which is ideal if you're teaching form. The thing to remember is they need to go on AirPlay before they join the Zoom meeting. If they try and do it from inside the Zoom meeting, it won't work. That's a little bit different on a desktop or a laptop. If they're outside of the Apple world, I'm not that familiar, but I'm quite sure there are HDMI cables and USB cables that can connect smart TVs to computers. So workshop with your clients very early on how to do that and advise as best you can to get up on the big TV. All right, let's consider background for a second, and that ties into lighting. So you can see just behind me, I've got the big Anytime Fitness banner. And what that does is kind of blocks the glare of the sun I get first thing in the morning through my shades. Now, if I don't have a block going on there and I don't have lighting coming from the other side, then what happens is I turn into a silhouette of just black on white. All the color goes out of it. So if you have light coming in from behind you, one thing you can do is get a dark colored sheet and some bulldog clips to kind of hide it all. Or if you can get a professionally done banner, even better. I guess that brings us into lighting. I've got a soft lighting box that I'm using at the moment. And Olaf, I'm going to get you to bring that up if you can. So he's going to edit some in just here. Thanks, Olaf. And then if you can't get some soft lighting, one of the things you can do is you can go down to Mitre 10 or Bunnings and get a floodlight and have it coming back up at you just like mine is. And that should tie you over. So by blocking out what light coming in from behind and having a light shooting up from in front of you, you're going to have better vision. And that's going to make it a lot easier for your clients. So some other things to consider in your background is, even though it's your lounge room and they're in their lounge room, and there's a solidarity in that you're both training inside your lounge room, you want to try and make it look as professional as possible. I've gone for some level of symmetry here. So I've tried to make the carpet in the middle equal space on both sides. Still had a little bit of clutter with a massage chair, which I'll never get rid of, but I have gotten rid of my couch. Some of the feedback I got early on in the piece is you just can't have a couch in the background while you're doing this. Also on the advice of one of my dear friends, I got a peace lily, which is a nice indoor plant, which adds a little bit of nature to it. You want to be considering, essentially you're trying to represent health and you're trying to represent that you're healthy. Well, hopefully you are. And trying to help them also be healthy. And a tidy room is a good representation of that. And some indoor nature is a good representation of that. You might also think about an orchid flower or maybe a stepmother's tongue indoor plant. They're very easy to take care of. So that's kind of your background and your lighting taken care of. Consider your positioning. You want to make sure that there is a way where you can be seen on screen doing whatever exercise you want to do. So if you're trying to demonstrate, or if you're trying to get people understanding what your form looks like, you can represent it and they can see the whole thing. And finally, let's think about sound. So at the moment, I've got some headphones with a microphone, and that's a pretty useful thing to have. The first few times I did this without them, I was screaming at a computer and I wasn't sure if I was loud enough or not. So I got myself some headphones and I called some trusted friends and I got to practice with them. And I deciphered whether I had to scream really loud so they could hear what I was saying, or whether I could talk just at my regular voice. So one part of what you're going to be doing is practicing with family, with friends, with loved ones, with trusted people, and asking them, can you hear me? Is it clear? Is it loud enough? Am I articulate enough? And also, can you see me? Does it look nice? Is there anything in this space you'd change to make it look a little bit nicer or a little bit easier on a small screen like an iPhone or an iPad if I have to? Now, the final thing to consider with what your client sees and hears is if you subscribe to Zoom, which is pretty worthwhile if you have some clients on there already. It costs about $21 a month. If you go to video settings, which will be bottom left near an icon, you can get high definition camera going and you can get a screen touch up, which takes away the blemishes. And that's quite useful. So that's what we're considering when we look at what your client sees and what your client hears.